Renault Dauphine car 1951–1960. Renault Dauphine is an economy car manufactured by Renault from 1956 to 1967. Like its predecessor, the Renault 4CV, the Dauphine is a rear-engine, rear-wheel drive four-door sedan with three-box styling. More than 2 million Dauphines were built and the design was produced under license by other manufacturers outside of France. Along with such cars as the Citroën 2CV, Volkswagen Beetle, Morris Minor, Mini and Fiat 600, the Dauphine pioneered the modern European economy car. Renault marketed numerous variants of the Dauphine, including a luxury version, the Renault Ondine, a decontented version as the Dauphine Teimoso, Brazil, 1965, sporting versions marketed as the Dauphine Gordini and the Ondine Gordini, the 1093 factory racing model, and the Caravelle, Floride, a Dauphine-based two-door coupe and two-door convertible. Lefauché instead saw Renault's survival in automobiles and achieved considerable success with the 4CV, with over 500,000 produced by 1954. The Dauphine was born during a conversation with Lefauché and engineer Fernand Picard. The two agreed the 4CV was appropriate in its post-war context, but that French consumers would soon need a car appropriate for their increasing standard of living, and the onset of the French Autoroute National Highway implementation. Internally known as Project 109 inches, the Dauphine's engineering began in 1949 with engineers Fernand Picard, Robert Barthot and Jacques Housset managing the project. A 1951 survey conducted by Renault indicated design parameters of a car with a top speed of 110 km/h, 68 mph, seating for 4 passengers and fuel consumption of less than 7 L, 100 km. The survey indicated that women held stronger opinions about a car's colors than about the car itself. Engineers spent the next 5 years developing the Dauphine. Within the first year, designers had created a 1/8th scale clay model, studied the model's aerodynamics, built a full-scale clay model, studied wood interior mock-ups of the seating, instrument panel, and steering column, and built the first prototype in metal. Having largely finalized the exterior design, testing of the prototype began at Renault's facilities at Lardy, France by secrecy of night, on July 24, 1952. Using new laboratories and new specially designed tracks, engineers measured maximum speed, acceleration, braking and fuel consumption as well as handling, heating and ventilation, ride, noise levels and parts durability. Engineers tested parts by subjecting them to twisting and vibration stresses, and then redesigning the parts for manufacture. By August 1953, head engineer Picard had an almond green prototype delivered to Madrid for dry condition testing, ultimately experiencing only 5 flat tires and a generator failure after 2,200 kilometers (1,400 miles). Subsequently, Lefauché ordered engineers to test a Dauphine prototype directly against a Volkswagen Beetle. The engineers determined that noise levels were too high, interior ventilation and door sealing were inadequate and most importantly, the engine capacity was insufficient at only 4 CV, 748 cc. The 4-cylinder engine was redesigned to increase its capacity to 845 cc by increasing the bore to 58 mm, giving the car a new informal designation, the 5CV. By 1954, a second series of prototypes incorporated updates, using the older prototypes for crash testing. Lefauché followed the testing carefully, often meeting with his engineers for night testing to ensure secrecy, but did not live to see the Dauphine enter production. He was killed in an automobile accident on February 11, 1955, when he lost control of his Renault Frégate on an icy road and was struck on the head by his unsecured luggage as the car rolled over. The Flins factory was renamed in his honor, and he was succeeded on the project by Pierre Dreyfus. By the end of testing, drivers had road-tested prototypes in everyday conditions including dry weather and dusty condition testing in Madrid, engine testing in Bayonne, cold testing at the Arctic Circle in Norway, suspension testing in Sicily, weatherseal testing in then Yugoslavia, a total of more than 2 million kilometers of road and track testing. In December 1955, Pierre Bonin, director of the Flins Renault factory, and Fernand Picard presented the first example to leave the factory to Pierre Dreyfus, who had taken over the project after Lefauché's death. The Dauphine used a version of the 4CV's water-cooled Ventoux engine with capacity increased from 760 cc to 845 cc, and power increased from 19 to 32 horsepower, 14 to 24 kilowatts. According Road and Track, the Dauphine accelerated from 0 to 110 km per hour, 0 to 68 miles per hour, in 32 seconds. Engine cooling was facilitated by air intakes behind each rear door and a vented rear fascia. Transmissions: Renault offered a 3-speed manual transmission for the Dauphine, with synchronizers on second and third gear. In October 1961, synchromesh was provided for the first gear. There was also the option of a semi-automatic transmission, in effect, a manual transmission coupled to dry clutch that engaged and disengaged by touching the gearshift, beginning in 1957 with an electromagnetically operated Furlec clutch and no separate clutch pedal, similar to Volkswagen's Autostick. Beginning in 1963, the Dauphine could be had with the 3-speed transmission with electromechanical control, developed by Jaeger, which functioned as a fully automatic transmission. Renault's automatic transmission was controlled by 5 dash-mounted push buttons, RND21. A Renault advertisement at the time said, "Out went the stick, in went the push buttons, and in stayed the zip, the fun, the economy, 35 to 40 miles a gallon isn't unusual." That's because the only difference between our shift and shiftless cars is this: an electronic control unit on our push-button model shifts the gears for you, automatically. Speaking about the Dauphine's rear engine, rear-wheel drive layout, Renault's Fernand Picard said in a paper he delivered in 1957 that the car was part of a rear-engine trend led by Volkswagen, Fiat and Renault, whereby the rear drive, rear-engine configuration had increased from 2.6% of continental Western Europe's car production in 1946 to 26.6% in 1956. The United Kingdom auto industry, which had also managed largely to avoid the front-engine, front-wheel drive trend of the 1930s, was excluded from Picard's figures. Suspension is the system of tires, tire air, springs, shock absorbers and linkages that connects a vehicle to its wheels and allows relative motion between the two. Suspension systems must support both road holding, handling and ride quality, which are at odds with each other. The tuning of suspensions involves finding the right compromise. It is important for the suspension to keep the road wheel in contact with the road surface as much as possible, because all the road or ground forces acting on the vehicle do so through the contact patches of the tires. The suspension also protects the vehicle itself and any cargo or luggage from damage and wear. The design of front and rear suspension of a car may be different. A 1958 Time article said, "The car that has come up fastest in the US market in the past year is Renault's Dauphine. A snub-nosed 32-horsepower sedan, it is low-priced, economical and small enough to shoehorn into a small parking space." The same article said, "The Dauphine is already outselling Volkswagen in 11 US states, including Texas. So brisk is demand that Renault and the French line have formed a new shipping company CAT, Compagnie d'Affrètement et de Transport. With 6 freighters that ferry up to 1,060 Dauphines each across the Atlantic. To serve the U.S. buyer, Renault in just 18 months has also built a nationwide network of 16 U.S. distributors and 410 dealers. In 1959 survey, 85.4% of users rated the car as excellent, and only 0.7% as poor, while only 5.4% experienced a breakdown. 49. By that time it was second most popular imported car after Volkswagen, which apart from having only 2 doors, offered slightly worse economy and maneuverability. Thank you for watching Renault Dauphine classic car.